I married my childhood rival. But right before the wedding, I was unexpectedly in a car accident. In order for both of us to get along harmoniously after marriage, I suddenly had a bold idea to pretend to have amnesia. But who would have thought that upon learning about my amnesia, this man would actually lean in and kiss me? My name is Qiaoqiao, the eldest daughter of the Qiao family in Jiangcheng. Sitting next to me is my lifelong rival since childhood, Liang Yu. Of course, now he is also my legally recognized husband in name. At this moment, Liang Yu and I are sitting in the car, on our way to the bridal shop to finalize the last details of the makeup and styling. The car interior is spacious, with Liang Yu and I occupying opposite ends, the distance between us as vast as the Milky Way. I hold my phone, scrolling through several trending topics on Weibo, all related to the marriage alliance between the Liang and Qiao families in Jiangcheng. Under these topics, many finance bloggers are engaged in heated discussions and analyses. Even an outsider can tell that this is a highly commercial marriage between wealthy families. The official Weibo account of Lang Enterprises congratulated us on our wedding, accompanied by a photo of Lang Ying, you and me. In the photo, both of us look unwilling, and no one would describe us as happy. Most importantly, in this photo, I have a pimple on my forehead. My mouth twitches as I stare at the photo, zoomed into its maximum, and turn around to confront Liang Yu. Liang Yu. But the words get stuck in my throat. The wedding is in a few days and we've barely maintained a superficial harmony. Wouldn't that disappear if we argued again? I swallow my words, continue playing with my phone, and silently try to calm my anger. But then Liang Yu's slightly hoarse voice reaches my ears. What's wrong now? What's wrong now? 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 No. Do I, Qiaoqiao, really have that many issues? The anger I had just suppressed flares up again in an instant. I turn off my phone, cross my arms, and raise an eyebrow as I look at Liang Yu, who is lazily leaning against the seat back, taking a short nap. He still has the same indifferent look he had when we were young. I get even angrier. Liang Yu seems to sense it too. He lifts his eyelids and slowly looks at me, as if waiting patiently for me to speak. A battle is about to break out. My back unconsciously straightens and I lift my chin slightly. Just as I'm about to retort, a sharp, piercing screech of brakes suddenly fills my ears. Before I can react, I'm forcefully pulled into someone's arms. The crisp scent of pine wood lingers around me, and my vision goes completely dark. All I can hear is the chaotic honking from all directions. The car seems to have been hit, rolling and falling uncontrollably. All I feel is the painful tightness around my shoulders. When I wake up, I find myself lying in a hospital bed. I try to move my stiff body and sit up, but as soon as I bend my legs, I'm struck by a piercing pain. The cold, white room is empty. I lie back down, powerless. Every frame of the car accident flashes through my mind. Liang Yu. I wonder how he and the driver are doing. I stare blankly at the ceiling, unable to forget the embrace that felt so warm it could melt a person. It plays over and over again in my mind. My face feels as hot as if I'm running a fever, and even pressing the back of my hand against it for physical cooling doesn't help at all. What exactly did he mean by that? We've been rivals since childhood, always arguing. An excited voice suddenly pops up in my heart. But he saved you. And he held you in such a dangerous situation. Another rough voice immediately retorts. So, are you planning to get along well with your rival now? We're about to get married, of course we have to get along. Are you sure he won't think you've been taken over by someone else? I shake my head vigorously, trying to stop my wild thoughts. Then I pull the blanket over my head, covering my entire face. But if I were really taken over, it would be better that way. I'd never remember what happened before. Wait. Never remember. A light bulb goes off in my head, reminding me of all those melodramatic romance novels I secretly stayed up late reading, filled with amnesia tropes. Instantly, I find the perfect solution to my dilemma pretending to have amnesia. I rehearsed alone in the hospital bed for a long time, imagining every possible reaction Liang Yu might have. Now, all I had to do was wait for him to arrive. I don't know how much time passed before the door finally swung open as I wished. The doctor in a white coat entered the room first, followed by Liang Yu, who had a bandage wrapped around his forehead. The stray strands of hair he usually slicked back now hung obediently over his forehead, no longer carrying the casual aura he had in private. Lost in thought, the two of them had already reached my bedside. The doctor adjusted the 4-drip speed with one hand and asked, "Miss Qiao, how are you feeling? Here it comes. Time to test my acting skills." I deliberately made my eyes appear unfocused and pretended to look utterly confused. I seemed to have forgotten some things. The doctor nodded calmly, pulled a ballpoint pen from the small pocket on his chest, and began jotting something down, not sparing me another glance. My gaze slowly shifted to Liang Yu. Inside the blanket, I secretly put pressure on my cast-covered leg, and a familiar pain instantly spread throughout my body. My lips quivered, tears welled up in my eyes, and I spoke with a choked voice. "Husband." The tone of extreme grievance, the deliberately drawn-out ending. Even if my parents were standing here right now, they probably wouldn't dare to recognize me. Sure enough, Liang Yu froze, his entire body stiffening. The doctor stopped writing and looked at Liang Yu. "It's likely a temporary cognitive disorder triggered by the trauma of the accident. Miss Qiao will need a more detailed and comprehensive examination later. I regret this, but if I say I was joking now, I'll probably be sent to a psychiatric hospital the next second." So I blinked, and the tears in my eyes fell with a soft plop. Liang Yu, standing beside me, suddenly leaned forward and used his slender fingers to wipe away my tears. "It's not a cognitive disorder. I really am her husband." His hand gently caressed my face, a tenderness I had never felt before. My eyes widened, and I was so startled by his sudden gesture that I didn't dare move a muscle. Liang Yu looked at me, seemed to think of something, and chuckled to himself. The next second, he cut my face and planted a kiss on my forehead, soothing me softly. "Don't cry." The originally light and gentle woody scent now enveloped me with an overwhelming sense of intrusion. My heart skipped a beat, then began to race. This was completely unexpected. I had imagined all kinds of reactions Liang Yu might have upon learning about my amnesia, but I never imagined this one. I stared at him blankly, unsure how to react. But Liang Yu had already stood up, casually tucked the blanket around me, and then turned to look for the attending doctor, who had left at some point without my noticing. I raised my hand to touch my forehead, my mind in utter chaos. "Liang Yu, have you been taken over too?" After another detailed examination, I was wheeled into the doctor's office by Liang Yu. The doctor looked at the test results and concluded, "It's a type of stress syndrome that can occur after a car accident, characterized by temporary memory loss or confusion. There isn't a very effective treatment for it at the moment, so the main focus is on rest and recovery." Liang Yu frowned, his brows tightening, and turned to look at me, who was idly sitting nearby. I immediately straightened up and asked gently, "Is it serious?" Liang Yu raised an eyebrow, a flicker of amusement in his eyes, as if he found this version of me quite novel. He chuckled softly, said goodbye to the doctor, and walked toward me. As his hand rested on the wheelchair, my body stiffened slightly, feeling as if needles were pricking my back. After arguing for so many years, I still wasn't quite used to such harmony and closeness with Liang Yu. I leaned forward slightly, trying to discreetly move away from the backrest. But a hand landed on my left shoulder, even pressing me back against the backrest with a bit of force. "Hiding from what?" Liang Yu looked down at me, his voice tinged with playful sarcasm. "Aren't I your husband?" A vein twitched at my temple, and I gritted my teeth lightly. For a moment, I felt like I really had damaged my brain in the crash. Otherwise, how could I have been so impulsive as to call him husband? Truly, I had brought this upon myself. After taking a deep breath, I looked up at Liang Yu, ready to take on the role of the innocent, delicate flower to the fullest. "I've been sitting for too long. I just wanted to stretch a little," I said, my voice dripping with grievance and a hint of coquettishness. How could my husband say such a thing about me? Liang Yu looked at me, his gaze lingering on my face for a moment, before curling his lips in satisfaction. "It was your husband's mistake. Me. I never noticed before how much you liked those two words." Secretary Zhou, from Liang Yu's side, had already brought the car around. When getting into the car, Liang Yu carefully and gently carried me into the back seat. When I accidentally looked up, I saw Secretary Zhou's expression, one of pure delight, as if he was witnessing something utterly heart-fluttering. Me? Liang Yu. Even your secretary is as strange as you are now. The Bentley drove into the southern villa district and stopped in front of a 3-story duplex villa. This was the marital home prepared for Liang Yu and me by both families, but neither of us had ever set foot in it before. Our marital home. Liang Yu's reflection appeared in the car window. He was leaning lazily against the backrest, a faint smile playing on his lips. Have you forgotten this too? Crap. This is my first time pretending to have amnesia. I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to remember this or not. I withdrew my gaze from outside the window and was about to answer when I heard a soft chuckle. Then, he turned and got out of the car, opening the door on my side. Liang Yu rested one hand on the car door and stretched the other toward me, his posture carefree and unrestrained. Seeing me look at him, he raised an eyebrow, his tone unusually serious for once. If you've forgotten, then you've forgotten. He paused, suddenly leaning closer to me, his voice lowering slightly. Your husband will help you remember. The car door was half open, and the dim glow of streetlights spilled into the car, adding a touch of warmth to the cool night. He stood against the light, which outlined the sharp contours of his eyes and brows. The laughter in his eyes made my heart flutter, and in a daze I reached out and placed my hand in his cool palm. Liang Yu's smile deepened. As soon as my feet touched the ground, he scooped me up, holding me by the waist, and even gave me a slight bounce. The Bentley behind us sped away, not daring to linger a moment longer. Liang Yu stepped into the courtyard and remarked with some amusement, "Every plant and tree in this yard was planted according to your preferences." I looked at the pavilions, water features, rockeries, jade-like ponds, and the vines and bamboo dotted throughout serene and elegant. It was indeed my style. But what does that have to do with you, Liang Yu? From what I know, before this you've always lived in another apartment. I pursed my lips, feeling a bit speechless. Inside, it was pitch black, the air filled with the faint scent of flowers. Holding me with one hand, Liang Yu turned on the lights in the villa. The spacious villa had no servants, yet the furniture was neatly arranged, new and clean. After setting me down on the sofa, Liang Yu remained standing in front of me. I looked up at his sharply defined jawline, unsure what he was planning. Liang Yu tugged at his collar, then suddenly bent down slightly to meet my gaze. A few seconds later, he slowly leaned closer to me, almost invasively. My heart raced, and I instinctively leaned back, watching him warily. "What are you doing?" A faint smile curled at the corner of Liang Yu's lips as he reached over to pick up a cushion beside me and placed it behind my back. "Someone's legs aren't in good shape," Liang Yu teased. "Shouldn't a husband take care of his wife?" I clenched the hem of my skirt, a small flame of annoyance flickering inside. Husband, husband, your head. Why didn't you just tattoo those 2 words on your forehead?" I took a deep breath and put on a serene expression. "Thank you, husband. You're so kind." Liang Yu let out, a smile reaching the corners of his eyes as he lazily leaned back on the sofa. But how could I let him rest? I glanced around the villa's layout, then turned to look at Liang Yu, who had just sat down. So, did my husband carefully choose and arrange all of this? Liang Yu leaned back slightly, his posture relaxed, his voice casual and unhurried. "Who else would it be but me?" He said it so matter-of-factly. I blinked and made a request, a hint of mischief in my tone. "I'm a bit thirsty." Liang Yu paused, raising an eyebrow as he looked at me, his gaze thoughtful. After a moment, he slowly stood up, deliberately drawing out his words. "All right, I'll go find something for my dear Qiaoqiao." The villa's kitchen was so large that only Liang Yu's solitary, rummaging figure was visible. I couldn't help but smile. Liang Yu's and my wedding proceeded as scheduled a week later. During that week, our interactions could be considered friendly. Mostly he said his part, and I played mine. But since it was a business alliance, the wedding ceremony wasn't overly elaborate. Apart from the formal midday banquet, the most important event was the rooftop dinner party at 8 in the evening. Many emerging enterprises had entered Jiangcheng this year, inevitably impacting local businesses like the Liang and Qiaoqiao families. To maximize benefits, and since Liang Yu and I appeared harmonious in front of our elders, both families decided to formalize their partnership through marriage, stabilizing morale within their circles. During this time, Both families were busy planning various strategies, with no time to pay attention to our true situation. Tonight's event was particularly crucial as a platform for exchanging information across industries. I had never fantasized about my wedding. I assumed Liang Yu hadn't either. For the two of us, it was simply a matter of one waiting to be married off from birth, and the other waiting to inherit the family business. But there was nothing sad about that. At that moment, dressed in my wedding gown, I stood only a door away from the banquet hall. The wedding march began to play. The heavy door in front of me swung open, revealing the romantic and dreamlike venue. Thousands of red roses were arranged throughout the hall, interspersed with tiny white lights, like stars fallen into a sea of flowers. The dimly lit banquet hall was illuminated only by the soft light shining on me, following my slow, step-by-step movement. Liang Yu stood at the end of the aisle in a dark suit, exuding an air of noble restraint. The venue was filled with guests, yet it was unusually quiet. I stopped in front of Liang Yu, my emotions inexplicably complex. Liang Yu gazed back at me, his deep eyes swirling with indistinguishable emotions. I picked up the silver wedding ring held by an attendant and reached for his pale, slender hand. As I was about to slide it onto his ring finger, I paused. I glanced up at him. Liang Yu raised an eyebrow and tilted his head slightly. Thinking of backing out now? He paused, pushing his hand forward half an inch, allowing the ring to settle in the middle of his ring finger. Wouldn't that be a bit too late? I smiled, lowered my head, and pushed the ring all the way on. I was just worried my husband might not want to marry me. Liang Yu chuckled softly but didn't respond. He took the women's ring and carefully slid it onto my ring finger. The next moment, he leaned down. One hand cradled the back of my head, the other rested on my waist. His lips pressed firmly against mine, the crisp scent of sandalwood brushing past my nose, light yet burning. It was just a brief kiss, yet it made my heart race uncontrollably. Liang Yu's eyes darkened, his voice low and steady. "Mrs. Liang, don't forget this next time." 8 o'clock in the evening. A world-renowned symphony orchestra was already playing soft melodious music on the rooftop. Dressed in a pearl-white form-fitting mermaid gown, I held onto Liang Yu's arm, smiling happily and sweetly under the flashing lights of the media. After brief presentations by the Liang and Qiao families about recent collaborations, the evening banquet officially began. All kinds of socialites gathered, laughing and chatting amidst clinking glasses. Only one corner seemed out of place with the banquet's atmosphere. That was where my childhood friends, the ones I grew up with Liang Yu, were seated. Meeting them was largely thanks to Liang Yu. When I was young, my parents were often busy with the family business, with no time to care for me. After some thought, they considered sending me to a daycare, but worried I'd be lonely. Later, they reached an agreement with Liang Yu's parents, who were also busy with work, and simply sent me to the Liang household, next door to play with Liang Yu. The day I met them was also the day Liang Yu and I became rivals. I remember stepping into the compound back then, where little Liang Yu was discussing with them what game to play that day. I stood in front of them in my favorite pink tulle dress and shiny little leather shoes. Little Liang Yu raised his hand, suggesting they all play a shooting game. I pouted unhappily, whining in a delicate tone to the group of excited boys that I wanted to play a princess and knights game. The boys exchanged glances, some fidgeting, others lowering their heads, clearly unwilling, but unable to bring themselves to refuse me. But I was too young and stubborn back then, standing firmly before them, believing they would certainly play with me. In the end, only little Liang Yu stepped forward, glaring fiercely at me as he said, "There's no such thing as princesses in the world." A few seconds after hearing those words, I ran back to the Liang family's courtyard, bawling my eyes out in front of Liang Yu's grandparents. Little Liang Yu got a spanking from his grandfather that night, and wasn't he allowed to play outside for days? Theft. Remembering little Liang Yu's tear-streaked face back then, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Liang Yu paused mid-step and looked at me. "What are you laughing about?" "It's you." I started to answer with a smile, but stopped myself the next moment. That was close. I almost gave myself away. Not far away, Su Chengji was enthusiastically waving at us. Almost everyone from the old neighborhood was sitting over there, clearly not the most serious crowd. But sorry. Right now, I Qiaoqiao have to pretend I don't remember any of you. "It's nothing," I said, withdrawing my gaze and nodding towards Su Chengji, who was still waving. Should we go over there? What a silly question. Given how often Liang Yu hung out with them, of course we had to go over. Looks like I'd have to put on another act. I looked at Liang Yu, waiting for his response. The rooftop was bathed in a soft, hazy light, gently outlining the contours of his profile. He followed my gaze to Su Chenji. He frowned for a moment, his thin lips pressing together slightly. Let's not go for now. Huh? Don't you remember this either? Liang Yu released my arm from his. They're the friends we grew up with. I stared at him, still in a daze. He chuckled softly and tapped my forehead lightly. You go ahead. I have some matters to attend to. I met his eyes, which held a lazy smile, and felt something inexplicably off. Seeing me unmoved, Liang Yu bent down slightly to meet my gaze, his tone teasing and drawn out. So my dear Qiaoqiao, is this clingy? I shook my head and walked toward the corner. Halfway there, I glanced back at Liang Yu. He was still standing there lazily, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, looking as carefree and untamed as ever. Qiaoji, why didn't brother you come over? Su Chenji handed me a glass of wine, watching Liang Yu's retreating back with confusion in his tone. I glanced at Su Chenji. How would I know? Aren't you two married? How could you not know? Su Chenji began to grumble discontentedly. I don't care, Qiaoji. You have to call brother Yu over. Su Chenji's loud voice was giving me a headache, so I reluctantly agreed. All right. He said he had something to deal with earlier. He'll probably come later. Hearing this, Su Chenji instantly brightened up. That's our Qiaoji for you. What Qiaoji? Fu Xiaoqiao, sitting at the other end of the circular sofa, chimed in with a laugh. We should call her Saozi, sister-in-law. Yeah. Su Chenji leaned closer to me, clinked his glass against mine and smirked mischievously. Asterisk Saozi. Asterisk. The teasing, melodious tone drilled straight into my ears. A slight twitch pulled at the corner of my eye, and I nearly gritted my teeth. Su Chenji? Here. I smiled at him. Don't make me slap you on this beautiful night. As soon as the words left my mouth, Su Chenji shoved his face right in front of mine, even closing his eyes with an expectant look. Fu Xiaoqiao, not far away, kicked him. Enough. If she really slaps you, you'll regret it. Even after being kicked, Su Chenji shamelessly leaned back in. But who would have thought you two would actually end up together? I swirled the wine in my glass, feeling my ears buzz. Su Chenji, you really talk too much. Of course, Su Chenji ignored me and continued rambling to himself. Remember when you two first met as kids and started arguing right away? Wasn't that partly because of you two? I was utterly speechless. Fu Xiqi spread his hands and shrugged, adopting a not my problem expression. Su Chenji looked at me resentfully and exclaimed, But didn't we play house with you for half a month after that? He paused, then added with an aggrieved wail, A whole half a month. I rubbed my temple, ignored him, and looked into the distance. Who knew Su Chenji would suddenly get excited again? He nudged my arm with his elbow and tilted his chin toward a young woman in the distance, wearing an evening gown the same color as mine. I narrowed my eyes slightly. This was the wedding banquet for Liang Yu and me. Logically, any lady invited with a bit of social awareness would avoid wearing the same color or style as the bride. This lady was certainly different. That's Miss Lin Xiwen, Fu Xiqi said, following our gaze. Su Chenji clicked his tongue and added, During the 3 years you weren't here, she's been pursuing brother Yu relentlessly. She never missed any event he attended. Honestly, didn't he expect her to show up even at your and brother Yu's wedding? Suppressing an inexplicable irritation, I simply said, Oh. Looking at her pearl white evening gown, it became more and more unpleasant to my eyes. Lin Xiwen in the distance looked toward me, raised her glass, and gave me a slight smile. Declaration of war. Su Chenji's excited voice sounded by my ear. This is her declaring war on you, Qiaoji. I didn't respond. I raised my glass in return. The custom-made diamond ring on my ring finger shimmered brilliantly under the light. What war? I genuinely have no memory of the 3 years I was away from Jiancheng. Just as I was about to get up to find Liang Yu, Lin Xiwen appeared before me. Her face was pure and lovely, like a delicate little white flower. Miss Qiao, she said with a smile, her voice crisp and sweet. That wedding dress is beautiful. My gaze fell on her gown, and I nodded. Speaking of which, before Miss Qiaoqiao returned to the country, she brushed aside the hair falling over her shoulder. I had also reserved a similar wedding dress. They look almost identical. Lin Xuan's eyes lingered on me before she suddenly smiled apologetically. Please don't mind. Identical? Identical dress or identical person? I leaned back slightly, loosely crossing my arms, and looked at her with some amusement. Miss Lin, if you have something to say, please say it directly. I'm not quite following your implications. What I mean is, there's an order to things. Lin Xuan met my gaze. It's just annoying when someone opportunistically cuts in line. I smiled. You're right. There should be an order. I ignored this little white flower and turned to the two who were eagerly watching the drama unfold. Was I only gone for 3 years? Has the social circle changed this much? Su Chengji immediately straightened up. How could that be, Ji? He lowered his voice, yet still loud enough for everyone present to hear. This one was never even in the circle to begin with. Lin Xuan's expression instantly changed, her smile stiffening. I glanced at Lin Xuan and was about to speak when I saw Liang Yu approaching. I haven't told Su Chengji and the others about my amnesia yet. I quickly got up and walked to Liang Yu's side, linking my arm with his. A hint of grievance in my tone. Husband, what's wrong? Liang Yu stopped beside me, not taking another step forward. Lin Xuan regained her composed smile, looking at Liang Yu with a hint of shyness. Her voice sweet. Young Master Liang. I felt a faint tinge of green appearing above my head. Liang Yu didn't even glance at her, still looking at me, and asked softly again. What's wrong? The peach blossom debt you attracted has come knocking, and you're asking what's wrong? I blinked, looking innocently at Liang Yu. Miss Lin says I'm interfering in the relationship between you and her. Lin Xuan beside us widened her eyes, as if she never expected me to directly and exaggeratedly complain to Liang Yu like this. She waved her hands, looking wronged. I didn't, young Master Liang. Liang Yu glanced at her for less than a second, then turned back to me, a slight frown between his brows. I don't know her. I deliberately avoided Liang Yu's gaze and looked elsewhere. You'd better not know her. All right. Liang Yu's voice held a hint of laughter. Shall I take you to see somewhere else? I didn't answer, but my hand very honestly remained on his arm. Liang Yu looked at Su Chengji and the others, smiling politely yet warmly. I'll take Qiaoqiao with me first. Enjoy yourselves. Su Chengji was momentarily stunned, then nodded dumbly. It was almost 1 a.m. when we returned to the villa. After freshening up in the master bedroom, I sat on the soft bed. Liang Yu and I had been sleeping in separate rooms this past week. It was his suggestion. The reason being that although we were legally married, the formal wedding hadn't taken place yet. It suited me just fine, of course. I might have amnesia, but that didn't mean I was willing to share a bed with Liang Yu. Though I thought this, I still sat on the bed, unconsciously staring at the closed wooden door of the bedroom. Time passed slowly, and there was no movement outside the master bedroom door. I gripped the thin blanket tightly, leaving many wrinkled marks on the originally smooth fabric. I pursed my lips. This is for the best. It seems he's just going through the motions too. No need for me to put on any act of affection. Click, the bedroom door was suddenly pushed open. Liang Yu stood at the doorway in a black silk robe. The warm light from outside softened his usually casual and unrestrained silhouette. I felt inexplicably angry. What are you doing here? As soon as I spoke, I paused. Why does that tone sound a bit off? Like I'm getting angry at a husband who stayed out all night. A smile tugged at Liang Yu's lips. How could I leave my Qiaoqiao alone in an empty room on our wedding night? As he spoke, he walked to the other side of the bed and sat down as if it were the most natural thing in the world. His distinct woody scent whisked around me, unsettling my thoughts. Wasn't Qiaoqiao waiting for me too? Liang Yu's gaze rested on me, a lazy amusement threading through his voice. I was a bit incredulous. Who was waiting for you? Hearing this, Liang Yu raised an eyebrow, his gaze turning meaningful. Has Qiaoqiao regained her memory? Forgot about that part. I closed my eyes for a moment, instantly switching my mood, a touch of grievance seeping in. I just thought my husband wasn't coming. I don't remember anything. Will my husband still like me? Were the things from before very important to my husband? I deliberately choked up as I threw these questions at Liang Yu. Liang Yu looked at me, amused. Weren't those all you? And didn't I say? He paused slightly before continuing, your husband would help you remember. Ever since our first meeting as kids, you've liked me. Later, you kept pursuing me relentlessly until we got together this year. After we got together, you cried and insisted on marrying me. Liang Yu tilted his head with a smile. And here we are married. Me. What nonsense are you spouting? I turned my head away, instinctively wanting to retort. But Liang Yu suddenly reached out and pulled my hand, leaning forward in the same motion. A kiss landed unexpectedly. All the words I had prepared to curse him vanished from my mind. Only the thunderous beating of my heart remained. I felt flustered. The kiss deepened. Liang Yu's and my bodies pressed close, our breaths mingling. Strangely, I didn't seem to dislike it. My hands unconsciously clutched his pajamas as I leaned back slightly, feeling overwhelmed. Liang Yu. His voice was low and steady, carrying an indescribable gentleness. Liang Yu finally released me, but still buried his face in the crook of my neck, gently inhaling. His controlled, slow breaths brushed against my skin, tickling slightly. I couldn't help but shrug my shoulders, but the arms wrapped around my waist only tightened. I gently pushed him away, creating a bit of distance between us. Liang Yu's gaze was deep, his Adam's apple bobbing heavily. Not yet. I lowered my eyes. At least ... I floundered for an excuse. At least wait until I regain my memory. Liang Yu reached out a hand and slowly smoothed my slightly disheveled long hair. Then we'll wait for Qiaoqiao. I stole a glance at him, tentatively leaning a bit closer, my arms loosely circling his waist. A low laugh escaped Liang Yu, slightly hoarse and deep, making my ears burn red. He stroked my hair, his voice soft. Sleep now, Qiaoqiao. Moonlight cast fragmented, dappled shadows by the window. I watched Liang Yu's sleeping profile, my heart still beating wildly. Liang Yu, deep down, you like me a little too, don't you? Not long after the wedding banquet, Su Chengji started organizing get-togethers every few days again. Su Chengji. Qiaoji, feels like an eternity since we last met. How about a small gathering this weekend? Remember to bring brother Yu along. Me. Whose husband is he? Yours or mine? And if we go together, how am I supposed to keep up the act? It'll be game over. I glanced at Liang Yu, who was leaning on the sofa reading a document, then looked down to continue typing. Me. Ask him yourself. Su Chengji replied almost instantly. Qiaoji, haven't you noticed something off about brother Yu? Me. Su Chengji, last time at your wedding, he didn't even come over when he saw me and Fu Si. The way he looked at us was like we were strangers. As if words alone weren't enough to convey his sorrow, he sent several voice messages in a row. I tapped on the first one. I didn't expect it to play out loud. For a moment, only Su Chengji's loud, dramatic wails filled the villa. Liang Yu, who was flipping through documents beside me, paused, his gaze lightly skimming over my phone before returning to the file. I quickly lowered the volume, soothing him with a headache. Maybe the lighting was too dim and he didn't notice. Don't worry, he's still your beloved brother Yu, the other side replied after a while. Then remember to bring brother Yu this weekend. Fine. I looked up at Liang Yu again. He seemed lost in thought at the moment, legs casually crossed, the document in his hand not turned for quite some time. Liang. Liang Yu raised an eyebrow, turning to look at me. I paused, cleared my throat lightly and started again. Husband, Su Chengji invited us to a gathering this weekend. The voice just now was Su Chengji. Liang Yu answered a question with another question. I nodded, continuing. Are we going? Hearing this, Liang Yu pursed his lips slightly and replied plainly, No, there's too much work at the company. I'm quite busy. I pouted, muttering quietly. Haven't seen anyone this busy during their honeymoon. What did you say? Nothing. I slipped on my slippers and went upstairs to the bedroom, leaving Liang Yu alone in the living room. The next day was the weekend. The other side of the bed had been empty all night. I went downstairs after freshening up, planning to have a simple breakfast. In the living room, Liang Yu was leaning back on the sofa with his eyes closed. A stack of documents lay on the table in front of him. Was he asleep? Liang Yu? Liang Yu's brows furrowed slightly as he opened his eyes, his voice a bit hoarse. Why are you sleeping here? I asked, puzzled. Liang Yu's gaze rested on me, and he didn't speak for a moment. I bent down and waved my hand in front of his face. Liang Yu suddenly caught my waving hand, his thumb rubbing lightly against my wrist, sending a tingling sensation. I'm awake now. Liang Yu's voice was low and slightly raspy. Go change. I withdrew my hand, unconsciously rubbing my wrist, confused. Change clothes? A faint smile touched Liang Yu's lips. Didn't you want a honeymoon? Honeymoon? I was stunned. Liang Yu stood up and ruffled my hair. I'm taking you out to play. Even sitting on the private jet. I still hadn't fully processed it. Liang Yu beside me was resting with his eyes closed. So, did Liang Yu stay up all night handling work? For our honeymoon? I looked at Liang Yu's profile and my heart inexplicably skipped a beat. I asked the flight attendant for a thin blanket and gently draped it over Liang Yu. The man's brow twitched slightly, and a smile curved his lips. I must have fallen asleep. In a daze, I felt Liang Yu pick me up, blanket and all, at some point. I seemed to nestle in his arms for a long car ride. Finally, I fell into a deep sleep on a soft bed. When I woke up again, it was already 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Liang Yu was sitting on the bed, browsing financial news on a tablet, looking focused. I pursed my lips and gently tugged at the corner of his shirt. I'm awake. Liang Yu caught my hand and gently kneaded my fingertips. Does my Qiaoqiao want to get up now? My voice was muffled, half my face buried in the blanket. Turns out Liang Yu and I were staying in a standalone beachfront villa. From inside the villa, we could see the entire ocean. Many foreigners were playing on the beach. Waves crashed onto the sand in the distance, hitting the rocks and spraying countless tiny droplets. I changed into a swimsuit and was about to step out onto the soft sand in my flip-flops when Liang Yu called me back. I thought you couldn't swim? Liang Yu stood by the doorway, looking at me. I responded, but this one is quite pretty. It is pretty. Liang Yu smiled. But we're going somewhere else for dinner tonight. Change into something else. I fiddled with the frills of my swimsuit, hesitating at the door. Liang Yu walked over to me, took the other flip-flop from my hand, and held my hand. I remember Qiaoqiao brought a lot of pretty dresses, didn't you? There were quite a few. For some reason, I followed Liang Yu upstairs and changed into a strappy maxi dress. Around 7:30 p.m. local time, various lights along the street shops gradually lit up. Liang Yu led me into a semi-open-air restaurant. The restaurant was strung with small light bulbs everywhere, playing soft, gentle instrumental music. Liang Yu sat opposite me, his slender, well-defined fingers lightly tapping the tabletop intermittently. As if sensing my gaze, he smiled, looking quite pleased. Is it nice to look at? I was momentarily dazed but didn't look away. After thinking for a while, I spoke. What if I've already regained my memory, what then? Liang Yu's fingers stilled. He leaned back lazily. Nothing much. His gaze met mine, his eyes deep, his voice soft. It's all my Qiaoqiao whom I like. Flustered, I looked away and took a sip of the cocktail on the table. My face felt slightly warm, probably because the alcohol content was too high. Liang Yu chuckled softly. And what about my Qiaoqiao? What about me? I lowered my gaze, lost in thought. Unconsciously, I pinched my index finger with my thumb. The restaurant's instrumental music had reached its end at some point, and the next song playing was Get You the Moon. I caught the distinct scent of sandalwood unique to Liang Yu again. Finally, I looked up and quietly met Liang Yu's gaze. Then I like you too. Liang Yu's Adam's apple bobbed slightly, his eyes deepening. My Qiaoqiao? Say that again? I glared at him. Forget it if you didn't hear. Liang Yu looked at me, a faint smile curling his lips. I heard. I couldn't help but smile too. For the next 3 or 4 days, Liang Yu's and my interactions were practically dripping with sweetness. It felt like we were truly dating for the first time. It was raining when we returned to Zhangsheng. Work had piled up during the holiday, so Liang Yu went straight to the company as soon as we landed. I stood by the roadside waiting for the driver, idly browsing the latest news and gossip on my phone. My phone vibrated several times in a row, all messages from Su Chenji. Qiaoqiao, you're back. That gossip post is definitely fake. Don't actually believe it. Before I could process it, he sent another message. Even if it's true, it's in the past. Trust brother Yu. Frowning, I opened Weibo and searched for Liang Yu's name. The search results immediately showed Liang Yu Lin Xiwen. Clicking in, the top posts had even more eye-catching titles. Heir of the Liang family and his white moonlight. Lovers should have ended up together, but someone else cut in. The entire post described how Liang Yu met and bonded with his white moonlight, Lin Xiwen, during university. Everyone thought the two would marry after graduation, but unexpectedly, a certain young lady from another prominent Jiangxing family swooped in first, heavily implying that this young lady was the other woman. And this young lady, as luck would have it, was me. I stood by the roadside looking at the overwhelming wave of condemnation online. Some irrational netizens had even flocked to the long-inactive official Weibo of the Qiaoqiao group, leaving angry comments. It was those 3 years again. The 3 years I spent studying abroad. I turned off my phone. Recalling Liang Yu's reaction at the wedding banquet, I fell into a daze. Secretary Zhou had already parked the black Bentley in front of me. He got out, loaded the luggage beside me into the trunk, then opened the car door for me. Madam, Mr. Liang instructed me to pick you up. I nodded without a word. Secretary Zhou glanced at my expression and suddenly added, Mr. Liang is still at the company handling business matters. I didn't look at him again, got into the car and closed my eyes. The car drove slowly. The only sound was the patter of rain against the windows. It felt stiflingly oppressive. The ringtone broke the suffocating silence. I opened my eyes to the lit-up phone screen, Dad. Rubbing my temples, I answered the call. Qiaoqiao, are you on your way home? Yes. I'm discussing the South City project with Liang Yu. The project proposal is in your study. Help me find it. Where's Liang Yu? I asked. Secretary Zhou, who was driving, glanced at me through the rearview mirror before quickly looking away. Him? He's reviewing documents. I closed my eyes for a moment and responded flatly. Got it. The scenery outside the window flew by. The sky a murky, gloomy grey. It was nearly evening when we reached the villa. I searched the study for the South City project proposal. Inadvertently, I found a medical diagnosis report in a drawer. The date was the day Liang Yu and I had the car accident before the wedding. Qiaoqiao. Stress syndrome. Faked. I curled my lip and flipped to the next page. Liang Yu. Temporary amnesia. I froze for a moment, then continued reading. The patient sustained a severe head impact, resulting in a degree of memory loss and an inability to recall past experiences. I murmured the symptoms written on the diagnosis report. Besides this report, there was also a confidentiality agreement signed with the attending physician. Must not disclose any information about the patient to any third party, to avoid causing fluctuations in Liang Enterprises' stock price. So, Liang Yu was the one who truly had amnesia. To protect the company's stock price, he hid his condition from everyone, even acting as if he had never lost his memory. He fooled everyone perfectly. I suddenly remembered what Su Chenji had said to me that day. Qiaoqiao, haven't you noticed something off about brother Yu? The way he looked at us was like we were strangers. And Liang Yu's refusals to every gathering organized by our old neighborhood friends. And at the wedding banquet telling Lin Xiwen he didn't know her. I clenched the papers in my hand. Liang Yu, was it that you didn't know her? Or that you didn't remember? Could your affection for me also be part of your carefully crafted performance? After Secretary Zhou left with the project proposal, I didn't know how long I sat in the study. It wasn't until night fell, and the entire study was plunged into darkness that I picked up my phone, which I had set to silent earlier. There were probably dozens of missed calls, all from Liang Yu. There were also many unread messages on WeChat. I opened Liang Yu's message window. Link. Liang Enterprises clarification statement regarding today's CEO rumor. The content was essentially a refutation of the gossip post, along with plans to sue some of the malicious comments. Qiaoqiao. I just finished the meeting. Wait for me to come home. After about 10 minutes, he sent another message. I don't know her. The last message was sent a minute ago. I'm almost home. Wait for me. Almost home. I sprang to my feet and hurried out of the study. Right now, I didn't want to see him. Or rather, I didn't dare. I didn't dare face Liang Yu after his memory loss. I was afraid. Afraid that he might never have actually liked me. I drove out of the garage and headed toward the apartment I lived in alone before the marriage. Just as I was about to enter the building entrance, my phone rang. It was Liang Yu. I pressed the green answer button. Qiaoqiao, I. Liang Yu's voice trembled slightly, carrying an urgency and unease I'd never heard before. Liang Yu. I interrupted him calmly. I lied to you. After a brief pause, I continued. I never lost my memory. Maybe for fun or something, I pretended to have amnesia after that car accident. I'm sorry for deceiving you for so long. I don't want to pretend anymore, so you don't have to put on that performance anymore. Uneven breaths came through the receiver. I hung up the phone. Liang Yu called several more times afterward. I didn't answer again. Back in my familiar home, I habitually sat on the armchair by the window. All was silent around me. Lights in the surrounding homes gradually went out. My floor wasn't too high, so I could still see parts of the neighborhood. But everything outside the window was shrouded in night, appearing hazy and unreal. A beam of light pierced the darkness from afar, gradually approaching. It came to a sharp stop downstairs. It was the silver-grey sports car Liang Yu usually kept in the villa's garage. Instinctively, I stood up and walked closer to the window, wanting to see more clearly. Unexpectedly, my gaze met Liang Yu's, who was looking up at my window. He was leaning against the car, a cigarette glowing faintly red between his fingers. He was still wearing the same clothes he had on when we got off the plane earlier that day. I lowered my eyes and drew the curtains. My phone, placed nearby, lit up a few seconds later. It was a WeChat message from Liang Yu. Good night, Qiaoqiao. I didn't sleep well. My dreams were filled with memories of Liang Yu. One moment, it was childhood scenes of us arguing and playing noisily. The next, it was moments from our married life. When dawn began to break, I went to the floor-to-ceiling window again. The silver-grey sports car was slowly driving toward the neighborhood gate. I bit my lower lip and drew the curtains again. I thought Liang Yu wouldn't come again. Unexpectedly, he was downstairs for several days in a row. And each following morning, he would drive away from the neighborhood. On WeChat, apart from a daily goodnight, there were no other messages. The rain in Jiangsheng had been continuous these past few days. Mum called on the day the rain was pouring hardest. Nanan, Mum seemed to have just left the airport. The sound of heavy rain was loud in the background. Why is it raining as soon as I come back? Mum complained before immediately adding, maybe I should go travel some more. You should ask Dad if he agrees first, I said, somewhat helpless. Mum had been obsessed with short videos recently. One day, she probably came across a travel video. Deeply influenced by the inspirational captions, Mom instantly decided on an impromptu trip. She decisively left Dad, who was still working, and flew straight to her destination. She only returned to Jiangsheng today. After chatting with her for a while, she finally got into the family's pickup car. Nanan, how are you and Liang Yu getting along? I paused. It's okay. That kid is a good one, Mom continued over the phone. Back when we were choosing your new home, he handled all the considerations and decisions himself. Didn't let us worry at all. New home? I was confused. Your villa. From location selection to renovation, Zhao Liang took care of everything personally. Long after the call ended, I still hadn't fully processed it. That villa, which neither of us had ever set foot in before. Was it all arranged and decorated by him personally? So, when he told me that day, that every plant and tree in the yard was planted according to my preferences, he wasn't joking. But how did Liang Yu, who had lost his memory, know? The rain grew heavier after nightfall. Large raindrops pounded violently against the window, leaving streaks of water. The silver-grey sports car was still parked downstairs, quietly waiting. Holding my phone, I opened Liang Yu's chat window, typing and deleting repeatedly. After hesitating for a long time, I finally pressed send. The rain is heavy. Do you want to come up? No reply came. A moment later, my phone lit up with a soft white glow. Open the door. Me. So? You already figured out my building's code and my apartment number. Liang Yu stood at the door. His shirt was slightly damp, clinging faintly to his slender waistline. His dark hair was dotted with droplets, messily falling over his forehead. The eyes that usually held a casual, teasing glint now looked wet. I blinked. Right now, he looked like a pitiful, bedraggled, drenched big dog. Liang Yu took a step forward, took my hand hanging by my side, and said, his voice carrying a slight rasp, "Qiaoqiao." I caught the faint scent of tobacco on him. Seeing no reaction from me, he gently pinched my fingertips, still calling softly, "Qiaoqiao." I sighed inwardly and softly replied, then grasped his cool hand and led him into the living room. It's been raining all day. Wasn't there an umbrella in the car? I handed him a clean towel. Liang Yu took it but simply draped it over his head. After a long pause, he spoke somewhat awkwardly. It's broken. What? Liang Yu averted his gaze. The umbrella's broken. Looking at the drenched big dog on the sofa, I couldn't help but smile. Just now? Liang Yu seemed to catch my brief laugh, his dark, wet eyes fixed on me unblinkingly, with tiny glints of light within. Qiaoqiao. I stood beside him, one knee half kneeling on the sofa, reaching out to dry the water from his hair. Liang Yu, emboldened, wrapped his arms around my waist, inching closer tentatively. Liang Yu. Feeling the dampness of his body, I called his name warningly. Liang Yu remained undeterred, still holding me lightly. Liang Yu, I reasonably suspect you're playing the sympathy card. But coincidentally, it seemed Qiao, fell for it. Go take a shower first. I pushed him gently, trying to create some distance. Hearing this, Liang Yu just nuzzled against me a couple more times. Let me hold you a bit longer. The scent of sandalwood mixed with faint tobacco lingered at the tip of my nose. It wasn't unpleasant. I touched his half-damp shirt. You smoked. I looked down at Liang Yu and added, It stinks. Within seconds, the man stood up without hesitation and headed for the bathroom. I carried a glass of warm water into the guest bedroom. Liang Yu sat on the edge of the bed, his hair fluffy and dry, clearly just blow-dried. I set down the water glass and prepared to leave the room. Qiaoqiao. Liang Yu stood up and took my hand. I'm sorry. I stopped, glanced at him and muttered quietly, Only saying sorry now. I heard Liang Yu let out a soft, low chuckle before a pair of hands encircled my waist. My waist tightened, and the next thing I knew, I was sitting in Liang Yu's lap. Thought you didn't want to see me, he explained. Besides, apologies are more sincere said in person. Liang Yu's voice was low and slightly hoarse, spoken close to my ear, sending tingles straight to my chest. Are you saying I wasn't sincere? I frowned, glaring at him somewhat angrily. No. Liang Yu immediately denied, his tone quite gentle. Qiaoqiao's apology was the most sincere. He looked up at me, a faint smile touching the corners of his eyes. I couldn't help but reach out and touch his brow. Are you still Liang Yu? I asked tentatively. Liang Yu paused momentarily, then chuckled helplessly upon understanding. Qiaoqiao, I lost my memory. I didn't swap souls. Then you... I mumbled something indistinctly. Liang Yu didn't catch it and leaned closer. What? I took a deep breath and quickly repeated. Then after you regain your memory, will you still like me? From start to finish, this was all I was worried about. My hand brushed his cheek. Liang Yu gently nuzzled against it and replied softly, Didn't I say, it's all my Qiaoqiao that I like? Oh. The corners of my mouth lifted slightly, an irrepressible joy bubbling up, but I still contradicted myself. You can't be sure. Liang Yu nearly laughed in exasperation. With one arm around my waist, he took out his phone with the other, unlocked it, and handed it to me. I was confused, suddenly asking me to check his phone. Liang Yu raised an eyebrow slightly. Take a look. I took the phone, opened WeChat directly, and warned, Liang Yu, don't be too confident. Why? Haven't you heard? I glanced at Liang Yu. There's a saying online. No woman walks away from checking a man's phone smiling. Liang Yu made an agreeing sound, a hint of teasing in his voice. Then my Qiaoqiao might be the exception. I ignored him and focused on the phone. There wasn't much to check, really. Most of Liang Yu's contact list consisted of straightforward names. Only me was pinned at the top, with the note wife. After some thought, I slowly typed Lin Xuan into the search bar. No related contacts appeared. Satisfied, I gave the phone a little shake. Not bad. Liang Yu looked at me amused. Just not bad? My tone lifted slightly, carrying obvious smugness. Liang Yu took back his phone, wrapped his arms around me so we could both see the screen. He opened his own moments and said softly, It's this. His slender fingers slowly scrolled through the screen. I saw many moments posts visible only to himself, but every single one was related to me. It seemed to have started from around high school. From initial secret complaints about me being like a proud, flamboyant peacock, to gradually more frequent appearances of words like cute and like. Each post was the best proof of a young man's budding affection over a long stretch of time. There was a 3-year gap the period I was abroad. Closer to the present were posts around the date of our arranged marriage after I returned. And the last post stopped on the day Liang Yu and I had the car accident. My face slowly grew warm, even hot. I couldn't help but smile. So Liang Yu, you've had a crush on me since way back then. Liang Yu looked at my smug expression and couldn't resist kissing me. It seems that way. He paused slightly, then added, and this feeling has lasted until now. So, when you argued with me, was it all to get my attention? A smile played in Liang Yu's eyes as he pretended to ponder. That, I'm not sure about. I lightly punched his shoulder. You'd better remember quickly. Okay. A smile still in his eyes. Liang Yu smoothly picked me up and placed me on the bed. Then can we sleep now, wife? I wrapped my arms around Liang Yu's neck, kissed him on my own initiative, then slightly lifted my chin. Permission granted. Liang Yu didn't move, looking down at me, his gaze gradually deepening. The arm around my waist slowly tightened. Liang Yu cupped my face with one hand, planting kiss after kiss. In a daze, I heard his husky voice. Qiaoqiao, give yourself to me. The pitiful, forlorn big dog from before had transformed into an energetic wolf, savoring the delicious feast bite by bite. That night, I truly deeply felt the difference in stamina between Liang Yu and me. The next day, Liang Yu and I returned to the South City villa. Life back at the villa was even more comfortable than before. Before leaving for work, Liang Yu would return to the bedside to kiss me, still nestled under the covers. He often brought a gift home after work. Sometimes it was a bouquet of flowers, sometimes a treat I'd shared with him. I always felt an urge to show off to someone. But unfortunately, my WeChat contacts included quite a few shallow high society friends. Thus, Su Chengji and Fu Xichu became the unwilling recipients of forced dog food couple displays. Me. Today's dose of happiness. Liang Yu gave me a star, accompanied by a picture of a naming certificate for a minor planet. For Chu. Su Chengzi. About 10 seconds later, a voice message from Su Chengji arrived as expected. Su Chengji wailed. Qiaoji, even dogs have a right to life. I was amused by this drama king and curved my lips into a smile. Liang Yu sat beside me, an arm around my waist, holding a tablet in one hand as he browsed the news. I looked up from within his embrace. Liang Yu, you really don't remember them at all. Liang Yu lowered his head to kiss me and responded softly. I don't remember. Su Chengji's organized another gathering this weekend. Want to go check it out? I tugged at Liang Yu's shirt hem, suggesting, maybe it'll jog something loose. Okay. Unexpectedly, Liang Yu had even more documents to handle over the weekend than on weekdays. I waited for him at home, planning to head to the destination together. It wasn't until long past the normal end of work hours that he finally called to say he was on his way back. Twilight gradually fell, and Liang Yu still hadn't arrived. When Liang Yu's custom ringtone sounded, night had already fallen. Hello. This is a doctor from Jiangqing Hospital. The patient was unconscious due to a traffic accident, and is currently undergoing examination. Please come to the hospital as soon as possible. 3 minutes later, I rushed out of the house in a panic. On the way to the hospital, driving, I called Secretary Zhou. Madam, it was a rear-end collision. But Mr. Liang fell unconscious for some reason, and is being examined now. I pressed down on the accelerator, increasing my speed. When I reached the ward door, the doctor happened to come out. I took 2 steps forward, asking anxiously, "Doctor, I'm Liang Yu's wife. How is he now?" The patient has regained consciousness. He has some abrasions on his head. The small amount of blood clot in his brain has been slowly absorbed. There's no major issue now. You can complete the discharge procedures shortly, but a follow-up checkup is required later. The nerves I'd been tensing all the way finally relaxed a little. Upon processing his words, I froze slightly. So his amnesia is cured too? The doctor nodded and hurried off to the next ward. The hospital lights were bright. Liang Yu sat sideways on the hospital bed, wearing loose patient clothes. A bandage wrapped around his forehead. I stood at the ward door, not daring to take a half step forward. Liang Yu seemed to sense something and turned to look toward me. My heart raced, but I unconsciously slowed my breathing. Seeing me, Liang Yu raised an eyebrow slightly. "What are you standing there dumbfounded for?" His tone carried the familiar casualness and laziness. A smile played on his lips as he spoke unhurriedly. "Aren't you going to come kiss your husband?" My nose stung, and I quickly walked over to Liang Yu, throwing myself into his arms. Liang Yu also held me tightly, his warm breath brushing against my ear. One hand landed on top of my head, gently ruffling my hair twice. "Little peacock, why are you crying?" As soon as he finished speaking, I cried even louder. "Wrong, wrong." Liang Yu flustered, continuously wiping my tears with his fingers, soothing me repeatedly. "You're my little princess." Liang Yu cut my face and planted a soft kiss, his voice slightly choked. "My wife. Liang Yu's wife." The end. Sexta chapter. Liang Yu, CEO of Liang Enterprises, was in an exceptionally good mood lately. Whether at work or social gatherings, those peach blossom eyes of his always held a very noticeable smile. He wouldn't answer if asked, leaving everyone utterly bewildered. Liang Yu had loved teasing Qiaoqiao since childhood, loved seeing her cheeks puff up in anger. Back then, he thought he could never like a young lady like Qiaoqiao, spoiled, willful and flamboyant. But in the days that followed, his gaze always unconsciously chased that charming figure. He didn't know when it started, but he began to secretly anticipate every time Qiaoqiao picked a fight. Started bullying the girl he liked like a little boy to get her attention. He originally planned to confess to her after graduation, to make his affection open and above board. Wu knew that after graduating high school, he never saw Qiaoqiao again. Later, whenever he recalled his entire youth, the most vivid memory was always the bright colors of her skirt. So, when Liang Yu's parents asked if he was willing for the arranged marriage with the Qiao family, he agreed almost without thinking. Seeing their son so decisive, Liang Yu's parents thought he might have been stimulated and awkwardly added, "Actually, with the family situation, the marriage alliance isn't strictly necessary." "It is." Liang Yu picked up his phone from the table, stood up from the chair, leaving behind only 3 light words. "It must happen." That night, another post appeared among his visible only to myself moments. "Going to raise a precious little peacock." At the same time, Qiaoqiao's moments followed closely. Worst news ever. She seemed to feel words alone warranty enough to express her feelings and added several crying emojis at the end. Liang Yu curled his lips into a smile and tapped like. Less than half a second later, the post vanished. She was unwilling. Liang Yu turned off his phone and let out a soft tsk. But he couldn't imagine the scene of Qiaoqiao walking arm in arm with another man before his eyes. This little peacock, only he could raise her. From that day on, Liang Yu began personally handling the arrangements for the marriage alliance. The marital home. Qiaoqiao liked quiet, scenic places, so he settled on the South City villa. The wedding venue. He ordered tens of thousands of roses to cover the hall, bright and flamboyant, just like Qiaoqiao. As for the wedding dress, only Qiaoqiao could choose that herself. That day, he and Qiaoqiao were in the Bentley, on their way to the bridal shop to finalize the last details. Having stayed up late working to free up time, Liang Yu was leaning back in his seat, taking a short nap. Ling Yu. The little peacock seemed to have ruffled her feathers again. Liang Yu took in Qiaoqiao's little expression, the corner of his lips curling faintly. What's wrong now? She turned, arms crossed, looking as charmingly adorable as ever. Liang Yu's gaze fixed on Qiaoqiao's fair face. Before the smile on his lips could fully bloom, his peripheral vision caught a private car hurtling uncontrollably toward the side where Qiaoqiao sat. Everything happened too fast. Without thinking, Liang Yu pulled Qiaoqiao, sitting by the window, into his arms, holding her tightly. The little peacock feared pain, so he couldn't let her get hurt. When Liang Yu woke up again, he was in a hospital bed. His mind was blank. He didn't even know why he was in the hospital. It wasn't until the attending physician came and explained the situation that his brain reacted, instinctively signing a confidentiality agreement with the doctor. After the doctor left, he picked up his slightly cracked phone and began piecing together his missing memories. And so, relying on those visible only to myself moments in WeChat, he traversed the long years, glimpsing his own silent crush and this long-premeditated wedding. After that, he went to Qiaoqiao's ward, but he didn't know how to face her. At that moment, Qiaoqiao lay in the hospital bed in patient clothes, talking to the doctor. Her gaze gradually fell on him. When their eyes met, her eyes suddenly reddened, her expression reaching the peak of grievance, her tone choked with tears. Husband. Liang Yu's heart thumped heavily, beat after beat. Seeing her tears fall, his heart filled with a dense, aching sourness. The face missing from his memory gradually became clear. Liang Yu leaned down to plant a kiss, soothing her gently. This was indeed his little peacock, he thought. Extra chapter. The old neighborhood compound. After Liang Yu regained his memory, I always felt particularly awkward. Although all signs pointed to Liang Yu liking me first, now whenever I met his smiling eyes, I'd always feel shy. Qiaoqiao. Liang Yu parked the car in front of Su Chengji's newly opened bar. I sat in the passenger seat, glanced at Liang Yu's handsome profile, then quickly turned my head, staring straight ahead at the floral wreaths outside the windshield. A sigh of helplessness sounded by my ear. I turned in confusion, only to suddenly face the man's enlarged face. Liang Yu reached out to cup my face, his lips pressing firmly against mine. Our entwined lips and teeth were filled with his scent. A moment later, he released me, an indescribable gentleness in his eyes. How long are you going to stay shy for? His voice was low and steady. I felt inexplicably guilty for a second and retorted stubbornly, Who's shy? His gaze fell on my lips again, a smile at the corner of his mouth. My wife isn't shy. Wife. This was the first time Liang Yu called me wife after regaining his memory. I blinked rapidly, unable to suppress the smile on my lips. The car was quiet. My little heart was racing wildly. Could he hear it too? I covered my chest like the proverbial ostrich hiding its head in the sand, only to be met with a low chuckle from Liang Yu's throat. Really cute. A smile reached the corners of his eyes as he reached out to ruffle the top of my head. I looked up at him and he gazed back at me. Just as another kiss was about to land, the car window was suddenly knocked. Knock. Knock. Su Chengji's large face was pressed against the car window, craning his neck, trying to see if he could make anything out. Outside, Su Chengji chattered. Why did they put this on? Can't see a thing. Beside him, Fu Chi was utterly resigned. When they want to come out, they'll come out. Do you need to worry about it? Hearing this, Su Chengji immediately became displeased and started exclaiming loudly, Brother Yu hasn't been here in ages. He said he was coming today, but is already 10 minutes late. What if he stands me up, Aga? Before he could finish, Liang Yu opened the car door and got out. He raised an eyebrow slightly. What's wrong with being 10 minutes late? Su Chengji, who had followed Liang Yu around since childhood, immediately lost his temper. Naturally, it's to invite my dearest brother Yuge inside. In the private room, after several rounds of drinks, Liang Yu told his childhood friends about his previous amnesia. Su Chengji slammed his glass heavily on the table, spilling quite a bit of liquor. I knew it, he said excitedly. I noticed Brother Yu was off ages ago. Just didn't expect Brother Yu wouldn't even tell us. Su Chengji's voice grew softer and softer, and he ended up taking a gulp of his drink in frustration. I glanced at Liang Yu beside me, signaling him to comfort Su Chengji. Liang Yu leaned back on the sofa, one leg bent, the other straight, holding a transparent glass, and shook his head at me. Sure enough, Su Chengji's despondency didn't last more than a few seconds before he suddenly stood up again. But it's understandable. After all, with a big family like Brother Yu's, who wouldn't be cautious? Come on. He raised his glass high. A toast to love and to tomorrow. He was clearly drunk. Everyone exchanged glances and smiles but still stood up and gathered beside him. Liang Yu took my hand, pulling me to his side, an arm around my waist. Everyone raised their glasses and clinked them together. The light refracted the splashed droplets into dazzling stars. Time passed, but the people from the old neighborhood remained the same as ever. A toast to love and to tomorrow.